Welcome back to the Five Spot. I'm your host, Donovan McNabb, joined with Armando Segura. A lot of great things happened over the weekend, but more importantly, we had a Monday night game where I think a lot of us who watched the game are still having a lot of questions of what's going on in New York. We had reports that, Aaron Rodgers is taking three-step drops. We've also had reports that we probably already knew that the Jets defense is pretty good. But the thing that we're still trying to figure out is what's going on with this offense. Is it Nathaniel Hackett? Is it Zach Wilson? Or is it just their inability to score the football? I look at it in the sense of an exciting game I was prepared for, because I thought, just kind of watching over the last couple of weeks, I thought Zach Wilson was starting to come into his own a little bit. His fourth quarter performances in the last couple of games have elevated him, where the worries from everyone in New York started to rest easy, and people took deep breaths and thought that this was on the right path. Well, last night just went south. So, Armando, when you took a look at this game, was it kind of questionable in your eyes afterwards, or did you see anything positive? Because I don't think anybody else did.
Yeah, I did see something positive, Donovan. I saw something positive around 11:30 when the game was over. That could be done with it. That was very positive for me. Man, look, I'm not going to go to Zach Wilson because that's the low-hanging fruit, right? It's easy to rip on the bad quarterback, and he is. He's not good.
Right.
But he deserves better than that terrible, awful, offensive line that just doesn't seem to have it together. He's makeshift. They're switching on the fly. Like this last week, they were experimenting with the center position. They got down to the inside the 10-yard line near the end of the game, and I said to myself, they're not going to score. They're not going to score. The game was over.
Right.
I'm thinking something will happen that they won't score. And sure enough, Zach Wilson delivers a ball right into the chest. I think CJ Uzmanzada went flop, pooped. Man, look, and then the idea that Aaron Rodgers would come back from an Achilles injury months after having the injury and fix that somehow, I don't think he even came there somehow, because that offensive line that gave up 8 sacks yesterday, they wouldn't get that 39-year-old guy killed.
True. And let me add to that. Let's give a little bit of love to your favorite coach, Brandon Staley, of, I guess, having his team prepared to win this game. Special teams points, I thought. Austin Eckler, I think people need to start paying a little bit more attention about Austin Eckler and the things that he's able to do in this offense. Obviously, the running back situation with paying these running backs and rewarding them for the things that they've been able to do with these football clubs. To me, I think you really have to highlight his ability and what it does to this offense. We know about the injury, obviously, with their quarterback and Justin Herbert and his finger. But give credit again to the defense of the New York Jets of applying pressure, closing up the pocket, and forcing them to get the ball out quickly. But again, when you look at the positive of one team, meaning the defense of the Jets, to the negative of the team of being the offense, you look at San Diego has struggled, or not San Diego, Los Angeles, excuse me. The Chargers have struggled on defense, and Brandon Staley being a defensive-minded guy, yesterday they looked like a Super Bowl contending defense against the New York Jets.
Joey Bosa showed up, and he's starting to starting to climb. He is stock up, arrow up. They had 8 sacks. Of course, they had the 3 little pigs and the 3 stooges up front for the Jets. So I don't know about that. But they did have 8 sacks. I don't know. That Jets defense is good. It's very good. They're wasting. You know how people say, oh, this team or that team is wasting the quarterback? Well, the Jets are wasting that defense. That is a playoff defense. Would you agree?
Absolutely. 100%.
And, so Justin Herbert, who clearly is not the same guy since he had the big injury. Every time I see him with that injury, it's like...
And the tape looked like it's about that thick all around. It's about this big, like.
What?
And the fact that they still have him under center is amazing to me. Like, he's taking snaps under center.
It's like he's got this giant white glob growing out of his hand, and it looks like he's displaying his contempt for the play call. So but he's not the same. You look at their wide receivers, you got one. That's it. You got one.
Garrett Wilson is very good.
No, I'm talking about the Chargers.
But I say Garrett Wilson because I believe he was the best receiver on the field yesterday. I like Allen. Don't get me wrong. I think Keenan Allen is a great player. I think he's now starting to get to that point as a receiver, being in the slot. Your age, your speed, starts to kind of creep in where it affects you a little bit. He's so effective in the slot. But then with Mike Williams out, they have another receiver that's out. They're rotating. I think Palmer is kind of in and out, and so they're young on the outside. But that's why I brought up Austin Eckler. That's exactly why I brought up Austin Eckler, and when he plays, what he does for this offense.
Right. Look, bottom line is, I think last night what we saw was 3 hours. Come again?
It was two teams that were not even really at the middle of the pack in our eyes that were trying to find a way to turn their season around.
Yeah, and against each other, by the way, and
yeah,
it's like 2 rabbits fighting.
Well,
it's like, yeah.
Well, let's take that and let's kind of trampoline into teams that have been playing well. The NFL right now is exciting, and the weight is being carried by a lot of these upper echelons of teams. Give me your top 5 picks as far as the top teams are concerned in the NFL. That's combining the AFC and NFC. Combine them to give me your top 5.
Now we're talking, because now we've got real teams to talk about. And so I'm going to go off and not, I'm sorry.
Don't try to set it up. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Okay, the Ravens. I love them Ravens. I just, look, I watched them dismantle, who was it?
The Seahawks.
Yeah. And that was 2 weeks after they dismantled Detroit. They beat those 2 NFC division leaders by a combined score of 79-6.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson, it was such a blowout that he didn't play 12 minutes of the 15 minutes in the fourth quarter. And they still scored a touchdown on Seattle with Huntley, driving them down. And so I just see that as a complete team. They got young players. They got this swag from these old chip on my shoulder type veterans like Kyle Van Noy that they added, Clowney.
Right.
They got these guys that haven't won a championship and are a little pissed off that they haven't won a championship. Van Noy has won a championship. But my point is, I like that team's chemistry. They got a great coach. He doesn't steal signs. I love that. Just saying. I, I like what Lamar is starting to do in that new offense. And look, I get it. They're not head and shoulders above everyone else, but they are, like we talked before, arrow up. They are climbing, they're getting better, and that's my favorite team right now.
So my favorite team, I'll get into it obviously with our top five, and we'll go with our other five. But let's start with our top team. The top team right now, I would have to say, is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I say the Philadelphia Eagles not because I'm being biased or anything, but what I've seen thus far. Now, I still have questions about their offense because they're somewhat balanced, but they're not effective as they were early on running the football. And a lot of that is because you're not running the football enough. Last game, they ran the ball 22 times against the Cowboys and threw the ball, I believe, 32 times, somewhere in that aspect. Now, Jalen Hurts has been efficient before the Jets game and even after the Jets game. A.J. Brown has been one of the best, if not the best, receiver right now in the NFL with Tyreek Hill. Devontae Smith, I think, is getting overlooked. And he is a quality and elite number 2 receiver that has elevated his game. Dallas Goedert and his injury is going to hurt them, I believe, because he controls the middle of the football field. But defensively, I have so many questions of what just transpired over the last 2 weeks. The middle of the football field has been a problem for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Dallas Cowboys took advantage of it. The Washington Commanders took advantage of it. Teams have been effective versus this defense, but I think it's correctable mistakes. But I'm expecting something different going forward from the defensive coordinator. They have a bye week. But I think offensively, this team has shown that they can compete with anybody. And so I have them number 1 on my list with AFC, NFC of the comparison between the two, because offensively, just like what you talked about with Baltimore, I think Jalen Hurts presents that as well by the ability to throw from the pocket and then also having to use his legs, and he's been doing it all year.
Yeah. Let me tell you the reason I didn't pick them number 1, because obviously they're an outstanding team, is I'm a little worried about Hurts' I guess, durability.
Yes,
right. It concerns me a little bit. He got a little, defensive about it recently. That's fine, but that tells me that it's a nuisance. And so if he's dealing with that nuisance, and it pops up every once in a while, that bothers me a little bit. Of course, the team that I picked, my top team, their quarterback Lamar Jackson, has a history of durability problems the last 2 years. So what the hell do I know? But he's fine now, and that's the difference for me between 1A and 1B as far as that's concerned. Let me give you a couple more teams that I really am very bullish on right now.
Right.
The Bengals.
Ooh. Yeah.
Ooh. I love that they basically mopped the floor with the Buffalo Bills the other day, and at the end of the game, the sideline reporter asked Joe Burrow, "What's the difference between you now and earlier in the season when you guys were losing games and you were playing well?" And he said, "I can run." It's as simple as that. I can run. He can escape the pocket. He can get out. And, of course, he's making plays. Jamar Chase hurt his back a little bit. He's going to be a little bit sore this week. He's telling people he doesn't know if he's going to play. Trust me, he's going to play. So there's that. I like them. The Chiefs worry me.
Yeah.
Chiefs still there. They're still
question. Yeah.
Right. I don't like their offense very much right now. Great defense, championship defense, but I'm not digging their offense too much right now.
Well, I'm with you with the Bengals. I have the Bengals just because of the way they've started. I have them probably at number 4. with the Eagles being one. My number 5 team I would have the Bengals number 5. My number 4 team would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I think, are under the radar where they're continuous to climbing, even though that division is not strong, but let's not overlook the Houston Texans and the way C.J. Stroud has been playing. But I have the Jacksonville Jaguars as number 4. My number 3 team, will be the Kansas City Chiefs. And I say the Kansas City Chiefs because you still have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. You still have Andy Reid as the head coach. And the way this defense has been playing has been more shocking because, remember, their defense was sort of their weak link. Their special teams was good under Dave Toe. Their offense was solid. Their defense was the one in the secondary where you started to, I don't know if they play against some of the upper echelons of teams. Well, we've seen what their defense is, what they did to the Miami Dolphins, which that's another topic we'll talk about a little later. Their front line, their front 4, front 5 has been applying pressure to opposing quarterbacks. So it's been impressive. I just have questions about their passing game on the offensive end. We talk about them missing a receiver, but I think Rice is starting to emerge. Obviously, Travis Kelce is still there. But I think what you're going to see is a shift in their approach, and they'll start to run the football with Pacheco a little bit on the offensive end. But my number 2 team is the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm so glad that you talked about that because the questions were all about, is this offense best suited for Lamar Jackson? The offensive coordinator coming over from the Georgia Bulldogs, from that collegiate level mentality, will it translate to the NFL? Obviously, Odell Beckham being hurt. Zay Flowers been pretty much the only healthy receiver that's been there. But now Andrews is coming back. Bateman's back. Their running back situation was one that was in question as well. 200 yards rushing against Seattle. So I just think the 2 top teams, the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles, to me, are starting to separate themselves a little bit. But those other 2-3 teams that I mentioned are still in that pack.
I love that you brought up the Jacksonville Jaguars and you said that ththey're under the radar. Their next game out, they're going to play the San Francisco 49ers in Jacksonville. If they hand the 49ers their 4th consecutive loss, coming off of a trade for Chase Young, that's going to be very interesting, and they won't be under the radar at that point. They're going to be all over the radar, like, look at us. Look at us, because we just beat the 49ers, and here we come. And I love that team. And, yeah, so you mentioned the Dolphins. Womp, 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 womp.
Well, it's funny because now we're going to the teams that have really fallen off. And so I wouldn't put Miami as one of the teams that have fallen off. I'll put them at the bottom if we're going top 4, top 5. And I would put them there with the Dallas Cowboys, the Miami Dolphins, and the Buffalo Bills. The ones ahead of them that's shocking to me are the San Francisco 49ers you mentioned because of what we all expected from them and everybody being, including myself, on the Brock Purdy train in that aspect of things. And so I look at it in a sense of, for the San Francisco 49ers, they, to me, and the Buffalo Bills, they're, to me, I'm still trying to figure out why. Like, offensively, for San Francisco, you expect a little bit more. Now, is it Deebo Samuels that being out, that they're struggling so much, or is it more Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan? When I look at the Buffalo Bills, I know what's wrong with them. They don't have a running back, which they brought Leonard Fournette in, and I'm sure he'll be active this game. But they don't run the football unless it's their Superman quarterback, Josh Allen's running the football. They're not getting the ball to Gabe Davis, or they're not giving it to Stephon Diggs enough. And they have a solid tight end there that he's shown now he can be one of the premier young talents in the game. So I look at the two being the San Francisco 49ers and the Buffalo Bills of my two disappointments so far in the NFL.
Yeah, I appreciate your explanation of the Bills because I look at that team as the biggest, right now, for me, the biggest disappointment in the NFL. And the reason for that is right now, if the season ended today, which I know it does not, they wouldn't be in the playoffs. They just,
Right.
they don't,
Right.
they're not, they're the ninth seed. And you only get, I think, eight that
Eight.
get in or seven. So I don't know. They're not in, is my point. And you look at them and it's like this inconsistency on offense. They come out like world beaters against the Bengals the other day, and I'm thinking, whoa, they figured it out. And then they don't do anything for the next 6 possessions, and now they're down, 18 points. Well, that's a problem. And it's gotten to the point where yesterday they get back to Buffalo, and the reporters are asking Sean McDermott, the head coach, if he intends to replace offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey. And the answer was no. And then the next question is, well, have you considered replacing offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey? And the answer was still no. And I'm thinking, no, you can't do it now. But, bro, if this continues to go throughout the season, you're going to be considering it at the end of the season because this is not acceptable. You have arguably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. He is elite. Why aren't you playing like it? They're out of rhythm. They're out of sorts. They don't have an identity. Their identity is, hey, Josh, save us. And that doesn't work for me, and obviously it doesn't work for them.
Well, let me add a little nugget to that. Now we can always go to offensive coordinators and coaches, but the players got to play. Josh Allen is not reading the defense. He's just not. He's missing open receivers. That interception he threw on the sideline in cover 2, Stephon Diggs was sitting at 8 yards wide open. He completely looked past him and tried to throw a hole shot to the receiver, which ended up being picked. A couple of mistakes that he's made. He's looking for the downfield explosive plays and not taking what the defense is giving him. He has to be able to work the intermediate and short and quick game to create that opportunity for the deeper pass. We all know about Josh Allen's arm and how strong his arm talent is and where he can put the ball in different situations versus different routes. But teams know that. So they're trying to force him to just check the ball down, keep the things in front of him. But as you've seen the game go on, you start to see Cook catch a lot of balls as checkdowns underneath. You start to see their tight end starting to get more balls in the intermediate passing game. That's when they started to drive. They started to drop. But as soon as he started holding the ball a little bit too much and trying to use his legs, that's when it worked in the favor of the defense. So for Josh Allen, that is the thing that's been going on, not just this year so far. It's been going on over the last couple of years, but he's gotten away with it with his ability to get outside the pocket, create that big play, or get outside the pocket and still keep the scramble drill alive to hit a pass for 15 to 25 yards to keep the chains moving.
Well, let me ask you this, and that was a wonderful explanation. So let me ask this. I assume that someone on that coaching staff has figured out what you figured out. And if they had someone with gravitas, with with a reputation and someone that Josh Allen, whatever that guy says I'm going to do, puts his arm around Josh Allen and goes, Josh, look, this game, we're going to come out and go up tempo and you're going to check it down and you're going to find the 8 yards here and the 7 yards there and the 8 yards over there. And you're going to force the defense to come up and then we'll go, to your big splash play. They don't have that guy to have that conversation. And that goes back to Ken Dorsey.
Yeah. Well, it does. And Ken has played a couple years in the NFL, so his experience of understanding that, because he did have the strongest of arms when he played at University of Miami and when he played in the NFL. But the thing that's made him into the position that he is the fact that he's learned under Dabo. He understands the offense that was created at that particular point. And I'm sure he's probably told Josh, hey, what are you missing here? Who's open? We got to get him the football. We don't have the time to sit back and try to hold the ball for 4 or 5 seconds. That's not going to work in this offense. And I'm sure he's told him that. But Josh gets into the game, and a lot of us as athletes feel like we can make every play possible. So we have a tendency of holding the ball a little longer than we're supposed to. So I think these are conversations that he's had, because if you even go back to the Giants game when Tyrod Taylor started, they were actually not in that game. They weren't playing very well, and then he made 2 great plays outside the pocket, which turned things around and put the pressure back on the Giants at that time. So I just think he has to get back methodically, moving the football by throwing the ball to the check down, the intermediate passing game, and then look for the big explosive plays.
Who's your next biggest disappointment, or your biggest disappointment so far?
You know, I talked about the San Francisco 49ers, and they have everything on their defense. My disappointment right now, just over the last couple of weeks, is Brock Purdy. It's Brock Purdy, because everyone was, he became one of those ones where everyone was basically wanted to create a movie about Brock Purdy. Oh my God, he's Mr. Irrelevant. He's starting. They traded off the top 5, top 8 pick from Trey Lance, and it's his job, and he's the leader, and the team is following behind him. All that conversation has died down over the last 4 weeks. It has, and he's an efficient quarterback. He's a quarterback that's everything's based off timing. If it's 3-step drop, 1-2 read, boom, ball's gone. 5-step drop, he's going through his read, 1, no, 2, boom, ball's going to 3. He's now having to scramble outside a lot more the pocket. Now, don't get me wrong, he's athletic enough to where he's able to do that. I've seen him in high school. But in this offense, that's not what Kyle wants. Remember, going back to even when Kyle was in Washington with me, that's what it was about. Then he gets RG3. RG3, it was about timing. He tried to change that offense after RG3 won Rookie of the Year. Tried to change up. Well, Kirk Cousins is our guy. Kurt had a lot of in-season success, not playoff, in-season. Goes to Cleveland. Didn't have success under Johnny Manziel. Comes to Atlanta. Had a struggle early on with Matt Ryan. Then Matt Ryan had success when he was an MVP candidate because it was inside the pocket. Get it to Julio Jones quick. All of his weapons. That's what this offense is about, and it just hasn't been that way in the last 4 weeks. Remember you talked about wasting away talent? That defense that they have, now don't get me wrong, Nick Bosa has not been playing well. He has not been playing well. And they traded for one of the Philadelphia Eagles tackles. You got Fred Warner in the middle, which I think is a bona fide beast in the NFL. And then you trade for Chase Young. Does that sound kind of weird to you that you trade for Chase Young when you traded? I think they got the guy out of Dallas, the defensive end, who went to Denver and kind of flamed up. So now you got 3 defensive ends who do pretty much the same thing, and they haven't had success with 2 of them yet.
Yeah, I think Randy Gregory is the guy you were talking about.
Yeah, Randy Gregory.
Right. Chase Young is there now. Sorry, Randy.
Ohio State University. Yeah.
Yeah. We love you, Randy, but Chase Young. And so, look, I get it. I'm right there with you. I was expecting Brocktober, and it turned into not Brocktober. It turned into, at the end of that month, it was like bad. And so I get that. I just see that they have so much talent. If they come to Florida and lose to the Jaguars, it'll be their 4th consecutive loss. And people and I guarantee you somebody will say, "Hey, Sam Darnold." And then it'll start to be kind of convoluted. And I don't understand. They should be really, really good. And I think they still will be, but yeah, Brocktober kind of fizzled out. Totally.
And so let's take this sob story as we just hit that segment of all disappointing teams, and let's talk about comments that were made continuously in college with Caleb Williams, who's possibly the number one, maybe number two pick of the draft. After a tough game, well, I should say after a tough couple weeks of his defense awful, defensive coordinator awful, which was just fired. Offensively, continuously putting up over 35 points a game, it seems. Lost a big game to the Washington Huskies. Now, I'm a big fan of both quarterbacks. I think both quarterbacks are future top 15, top 20 picks going up into the upcoming draft in 2024 draft. I look at it in a sense where Caleb Williams has separated himself as one of the best, if not the best quarterback in college. Well, he suffered a loss, and after the game, everyone was talking about him coming up into the stand. He did it after the game in the stand. I didn't have a problem with it. People were talking about it should hurt his draft status, which it should not hurt his draft status, because on the field, he's a bona fide, one of the best players in college football. And also, he's a leader. He prepares well, and he's out there playing from the pocket and outside the pocket, which he's a premier talent. So in your eyes, Armando, I know where you're going to go with it, but I think they need to hear it. Where do you see this going for Caleb Williams?
Yeah, so I know that there are some people out there, the nerd faction of the population, that is going, oh, he's a football player. He shouldn't be crying. Meanwhile, I'll slap you and you'll be crying like right there in front of your keyboard. Anyway, the point being, the people that are saying, I heard somebody go, oh, he went to his mommy. Yeah, boy. Anyway, here's the thing. The folks that make these determinations, they will, and I'm talking about personnel departments, they will absolutely look at that moment. But I can also tell you they will look at that moment and look at the 40 moments where he is like running out of the pocket and running in the wrong way and doing that, and the ball is like super accurate down the 40 yards down the field. Right. And it's 28 touchdown passes without really trying and only 3 interceptions. And they'll go, those moments are more important to me than a moment of emotion.
It's amazing to me how everyone wants to create a storyline with comedy when it deals with someone in their emotion. And the funny thing is to me as football players, yes, we are emotional and we should be. I mean, we win games, we lose games. When we lose games, we get upset. Yeah, we get upset. Some guys sit in their locker room. Some guys may cry, shed a tear or two. You go home. No one knows what you're doing behind closed doors, which no one needs to know if they're crying or whatever. And you go through so many of these phases, and they can talk about some of their top quarterbacks. When you look at the draft, some of these guys who don't get drafted in those early picks get upset, and who's the first person that consoles them? Their mom. So, if it's their mom or dad, or, if they're shedding a tear, whatever it may be, that's just emotion. We're human beings. And I think that's the way that people need to understand is that, yes, we put pads on, we put helmets on, we bang up, each other, we're tackling, we're getting sacked, we're getting sacks, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, when we take those pads off, we're human. And we're just like everyone else. We like to have fun. We work out. We go eat. We spend time with family, because we all know that at the end of the day, who do you trust? You trust your family more than anybody else. So blood is thicker than water. And so I just think for these comments that have been made, that they're kind of almost to the point where it's like you're like teenagers just chirping to try to find a storyline to be the funny guy in the room.
And not only that, it's the same people that are criticizing him for showing emotion are the same people that if he didn't show emotion and was very stoic would say, well, he doesn't care about what's going on. Right. That he just suffered this very tough loss, and he just was very stoic about it, and he has no emotion. And a leader has to be at times emotional and show he's invested. He showed he's invested. It meant something to him that his team lost, and now they're ripping the dude for it. He wasn't crying on the field. He wasn't crying on the sideline. The game was over. Over, and he was with his family. That's it. Why not? I don't understand. I don't understand.
People will never understand until they're in that same situation. And it's funny, the comments that have been made are pretty much people who never been in that situation. But let's go to another situation I think is something that has been close to me because I have 2 daughters. There were comments that were made about the WNBA champions being the Las Vegas Aces and their coach, Becky Hammond, them winning a championship and saying that a high school basketball team would beat this WNBA championship. Why are we always trying to bring down teams that have been able to accomplish the dream, able to accomplish a goal together, and enjoy their moment? This is something that really bothers me a lot of times when I hear people make comments, oh, well, if you would have played this team, or, well, if this person was there, well, you know what, they weren't. And so this is a team in a league in the WNBA that has continued to try to make a mark for themselves to allow opportunities for young ladies to continue to their dream of playing professionally. And they've done a great job where the WNBA is helped in so many ways. They're getting more and more sponsors. These girls that we watch all through college become All-American, become Player of the Year, girls that we want to see them play on a professional level instead of going overseas where we really don't get a chance to watch them. They're here playing in the States, and it's exciting. Asia Wilson and her basketball team that's ran by Mark Davis, who's the Las Vegas Raiders owner. Yes, his dad, Al Davis, is a Syracuse alum. So I like to always bring them up and their family and what they've done for the university. But more importantly, let's not tear down these young ladies of saying, well, if they would have played this team or whatever. Yeah, okay, if they play some young kids out of high school that are 6'9", 6'7", 7 foot, 6'5", super athletic, that's not a comparable thing to even bring to this particular situation. So let's glorify these young ladies and the goals that they were able to accomplish of winning this championship, back-to-back championships, that is, and the things that they've been able to do. Because I have a daughter who plays basketball, and if she dreams of playing in the WNBA, let that dream continue to be settled where she has that opportunity. And if she wins a championship, it doesn't matter who she didn't play against. Is if they won and the team that they played against, which was also a very good team in the New York Liberty, and the things that they've been able to do. But I'm excited for the Las Vegas Aces. Congratulations to them and their coach, Becky Hammond, of winning the championship. Well deserved.
So this is a true story, right? So once upon a time, I was very young and slightly less unathletic than I am now. And I decided for one of my stories, I was going to go. There was a college in South Florida, Barry University, that had this young woman who was like lighting up scoreboards all over the place. So I decided I'm going to go down there and play her one-on-one and, and then write about it. I also boxed a woman one time, like this champion woman boxer, which would have been a different story because I would have killed her. But the basketball gal, she was good. She was freaking good. And she could get around me anytime she wanted. She could, obviously, here I am back in my 30s. She's 20, and she's like, duck. Of course, at 220 pounds, I said, okay, fine, I'm just going to back her down and then shoot a 1-inch layup every single time. But then she figured it out and started like packing my, swatting my stuff. I have respect for women's sports.
Right.
I'm going to be totally transparent. I don't watch women's sports. But then
I'm working on that with you.
Well, but I don't watch men's sports either outside of football because I just don't have time and I've kind of lost interest in. I mean, every once in a while, I'll watch some track, and then the women's are just as exciting to me as the men. My point is, they, I let them live, they let me live. Let's all live together, right? Right?
Exactly. And that's what it's all about. I think we have to give these women an opportunity to enjoy the moment as well. Let's not find a way to tear them down by making comments that are irrational, that should not even be mentioned. And so I look at it in the sense of those that made the comments. Come on, let's pull back. Let's take a deep breath, and let's sit back and just kind of glorify them and congratulate them on being able to achieve that common goal. Because it's something in which all of us have some type of goal that we're trying to achieve. And the worst thing you want is people on the outside chirping, saying that you can't, or you basically are not good enough. And then when you do accomplish that goal, try to tell you that you should never have done it and you're not worthy of it. So I think that's where we need to focus in at this particular point. Any last words, Armando?
NFL.
Well, with that said, we're going to get Armando to watch the WNBA when it comes back. College basketball starting up, women's basketball starting up this week. So make sure you tune in. I'm going to get Armando watching a little bit of women's college basketball. So join us in again here at the 5 Spot.